Hello. Welcome to episode 48 of Movie Schmovie.
What's your name?
My name is Ronald.
What's my name?
Steve.
What's my name?
John.
John.
Where are
John. We are in the greatest basement ever.
and what are we here to do?
We're here to talk about movies and stuff.
What kind of movies are we here to talk about?
The 5 scariest movies in our young lives.
Or in our lives?
Yeah.
We're all young.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
We don't have wrinkled balls yet. That's my gauge of old.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Seriously.
No, seriously.
I wasn't kidding about that.
I wasn't kidding about
I'm
that.
truly genuine
I'm
about
truly-
the wrinkled ball.
That's really my gauge.
But not just specifically, not just scary movies, but actually we're going to break it down even further and go into scary movie moments.
Scary movie. That is so specific.
Last year we did, before John jumped on the board, we did the actually horror film.
Before I jumped on board like Freddie Quell.
Jumped on board.
Right. Now he's here.
Like basically favorite horror movies. We did a countdown. We had Lauren on last year. She's not able to join us this year, but we're going to actually kind of narrow down so we don't repeat ourselves too much and talk about the moments that we remember, whether we saw the movie recently or not. John and I were talking a little bit before we started recording. And it's like some movies we haven't actually seen in a little while. But there's that moment in the films that we're going to talk about tonight that truly frightened you, whether it's when you were a child, teenager, adult. Looking over my list, I think I've covered my entire life because I've been watching horror movies, since I was a little kid. And just to kind of get more into the moments, because I think when we talk about horror movies, especially because we talked about Sinister a couple episodes ago, and we've kind of referenced some other movies recently, like Paranormal Activity, even if it's not a great movie, or, a good movie even, some films out there like have those moments that genuinely can frighten you and leaves an impression. And if you remember anything about the movie, it's that moment. Right. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight.
You know what? So I feel bad. My first is actually 2 things. It's everything with Freddie in it. That's the thing. For I feel like our generation, basically anybody up until like pretty much 40. You know what I mean? Anybody up until 40.
Right.
Jason, Freddie struck fear in the hearts of us. And something about any time I heard his name, I would literally jump. Like, oh, shit. Okay, but since I can't do a single moment, I'm going to ignore that one, scratch that one. And I have a specific moment. House of Wax. There's a scene where this guy is reaching. He's like underground in the gas station.
Right.
He puts his hand through a vent. I guess the water goes down into
Sewer.
Yeah, sewer. Vent. Hole.
Yeah.
Grate?
Puts his hand up.
Some sort of drainage.
Yeah, he puts his hand up to kind of
Let's call it a grate.
reach for something.
Something like that.
And his finger gets clipped.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That is a terrible movie. I mean, some parts of it were really cool. That movie was horrible. But that moment...
Oh, the recent one with
the remake?
Paris Hilton?
Paris Hilton, yeah. That's the version I'm talking
That's
about.
what you take away from that movie, that Paris Hilton was in it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I remember at the time it made a big splash because everyone wanted to see Paris Hilton get killed.
Yeah. Sure.
And she does get killed in the film, so
Absolutely.
you get to see that.
I had some moments that were really cool.
No, it did have a couple of moments
I
of
actually
kind of
think it's
like
a
where you would
solid
feel
movie.
sorry for what happened to the person. I thought
Right.
the guy's finger, that is real visceral.
Yeah, so that was pretty scary to me. I guess because I imagine if I were to lose a digit, and he had to be quiet about it, that's a pretty terrifying moment.
Yeah, not only was it completely shocking to him, like, oh, I'm looking to try to get a grip to get out, you know, and it's like it happens and you can't give away. I mean, they obviously know you're there.
Yeah.
But, like you said, in that moment, he's trying to restrain himself a little bit.
Right, especially since it was very subtle. It wasn't like a vat of acid. Just snip that was petrifying. So that's mine. Who's
Steve?
next?
I'm going to go with, we did talk about this movie last year, but one of the first thing that comes to mind is 1982's Poltergeist.
Okay.
There's a scene towards the end of the film where Robbie, the young boy, he's, there's moments in his room where he's got this clown that he is petrified of. It's keeping him up at night. And it's a moment, like, I guess towards the end of the film where, like, you have the understanding that the house might be clean. Carol Ann's come back from the other side and everything is good. Well, not so much when the clown wraps Robbie around the neck and pulls him under the bed. That as a child, I didn't see it in 82. I was born in 81, saw it a few years later, maybe 4 or 5 years later as a kid. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. I don't regret that at all, though. So that's a moment, not that I say I have a fear of clowns, but that moment, every kid has a moment in a room. And from that moment on, I had one every night, where you have that toy or that spot in your room where you don't know what's going on, or you wonder what's going on if you can't see it under the bed, for example.
Yeah, the lights go out. The lights go out, and that room changes into something else.
Exactly. And then when you have the clown, and the clown is taking me under the bed where I don't know what's going on, it's like a 1-2 punch that I couldn't get over when I saw it as a kid.
Also, don't you think being a kid watching that was very, very like it just was too close to home?
And it's not only I think in that scene, like there's a point where he actually looks under the bed and he checks everything out, and it's like that. It's that moment where everything is okay.
Yeah.
And then he comes up and the clown's there. Yeah. And it's like, damn, thought too soon.
Also the braces scene.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
oh yeah.
Ooh, scared the shit out of me.
You mean the guy's face in the mirror, or the?
Doesn't it like wrap around his...
Like the wire starts wrapping
around his body.
Is that not in the...
It's in the second one.
Oh, that's in the second one. Yeah. Okay. But the first one, isn't the guy looking in the mirror and he starts like picking pieces of his face off or something?
Yeah.
It's a good movie, man.
Yeah.
That's the first one off my list. What you got, John?
Cool.
I will go with one also that kind of made an impression on me early. This was one of the first horror movies I remember watching when I was relatively young, and it still creeps me out just as much as it did the first time. It's The Shining.
Yeah.
And it's chock full of moments that you could pick as a moment. I think the creepy twins in the hallway.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. That's actually on my list.
All right,
that scene. So I'll tag team
the creepy
with you
twins.
The twins.
Okay, we'll talk about the twins
on my
because that's not mine. So
good. Yeah. There you go. I don't know. Like I remember seeing my first time seeing The Shining. I was a teenager. So this was in the mid 90s, and I was a big fan of horror, but this is a different kind of horror that was my first real exposure to, like this psychological horror.
Yeah.
That through everything else that was going on in the movie, a lot of it was the mental scare that I was building up in my mind. And to kind of go around those hallways with the little boy, and the sound mixing was so great. Like the sound of him going from carpet to hardwood to carpet to hardwood, like that itself was like so hypnotic to me that as soon as he makes that turn and he sees those twins, one, that's scary as hell. And then he sees these intercut really quick scenes of them murdered later on, and they want him to play with them forever. Scared the shit out of me. Seeing Danny's first exposure to his shining moment, it scared me to death, and going around corners and hallways and hotels. I remember going on family vacations as a teenager. From that moment, it scared me to make that turn without kind of looking a little bit around the corner, because I didn't know if there was going to be two creepy ass twins around there waiting for me.
Yeah,
but I don't know. That's my scene from The Shining. What do you have?
Well, with The Shining, we got to give respect to the old lady in the bathtub.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But the moment, and I don't even know how to explain it, but everyone knows the moment. The weird guy in the dog costume giving the guy a blowjob.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. There's a guy in a tuxedo and he's sitting on the edge of the bed, and there's a guy in a dog costume giving him a blowjob.
Wow.
And it happens in the moment when Shelley Duvall is running around the hotel, basically just like going like kind of from room to room, almost like going, seeing how fucked everything is. And that moment is just... It doesn't make any sense. They kind of seem vaguely disturbed by her arrival there, and it kind of comes in a flurry of scenes. I think then she goes down to the lobby, and it's full of skeletons and cobwebs and that kind of stuff. It's just a moment where the house suddenly reveals that there's all these, we don't even get to know a fraction of the evil spirits or the ghosts or the weirdness that's happened in this hotel.
Right.
The whole movie's about the idea that something happens in a place and it kind of leaves an imprint.
Sure.
I thought that notion of just, this house of horrors, just where every room has some dark secret hidden in it and some sad soul trapped inside
It's so weird that you bring that up, because I just sent my girlfriend a link for a completely separate thing than The Shining. It was like an article about things if you would have known, seen a film from the book, would have changed the way the movie felt for you. Like, I guess basically scenes that didn't make sense.
Right.
And that's actually in the article.
There's a description of that.
I mean, it's basically about that in the Stephen King story that there's he actually is a character. I forget what his character's name is.
It's a very briefly mentioned character, but
it's like a sex slave, and basically works the hotel and performs these acts on these men, and it's just like a little like wink. I guess Kubrick put it in briefly.
Yeah,
but unless you knew, I didn't know that.
And even in the book, it's not clear if all these people whose ghosts are there are people that died there, or if they're people that just did something so outside of the norm that it left an imprint. But the fact that it's so unexplained,
sure,
and it also just points to the kind of insanity and what you were saying before about just the psychological horror. You see that movie, and it there's just something that feels deeper and darker and more orchestrated and kind of more evil than a lot of other horror movies that make a lot more sense. I mean, the horror in that movie is kind of almost ill-defined. Like, the villain is the hotel.
The other one that I was toying with, just to add it quickly, is the bat scene. Like when she's in that, like, I guess she's in a is it a hall, like a dining hall or something where Jack is like kind of following her around, and it's that moment of realization to her that he is completely batshit crazy and he's gonna harm her.
Yeah.
And he's basically he's kind of calm, but he's fierce when he's saying he's like, I'm gonna bash your head in.
Yeah.
And at that moment, and you just see her realize that this may be something that is way out of my grasp of what I thought might be going on.
Yeah.
And that moment really...
Well, there's something really scary about the notion of kind of the bad dad. I mean, we've seen him in the whole movie kind of lose his grip on reality. And I would say in tandem with that, him chasing his son through the hedge maze is the betrayal of the family idea that, and you see that in so many horror movies where there's, it's usually the father who is, kind of goes off the deep end and tries to kill everybody.
Yeah. That movie was great. One thing I remember about the movie also is it seemed very wide.
Yeah.
Like, seemed very
Stanley Kubrick
vast.
Does those large sets, a lot of wide shots, a lot of long shots.
I always remembered how vast it seemed. It just seemed like a very full movie. That was pretty crazy. Okay, so
what do you got next?
My fourth is an odd one. It is
my friend, are an odd one.
It is a Wes Craven movie from 1988.
Uh-oh.
The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Okay.
Okay. So first and foremost, I don't like voodoo. I don't like things that seem like they could be real. Kind of tangible things. Yeah. And it took place in Haiti.
Like Ghoulies.
Right. And it was like about this.
Oddly enough, not on my list. So the toilet bowl scene got me.
The whole idea, I guess, of like there's one scene that gets me. It got me as a kid. I was watching Nightmare Theater. It's a local thing they used to have every Sunday.
Yeah.
After Black Belt Theater. Oh, amazing. And there's a scene where a guy is perfectly fine and something happens to him and it paralyzes him. But he's still alive, he's still functioning, and then he gets buried alive. They show a view of him in the casket and he's crying in the casket and he's going to die in there. Man, I can't express how that messed me up as a kid. And it's still to this day.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of people like in comas and suddenly coming out of the coma and digging through the dirt. And it's just hit, I don't know, man. It hit home. The reason also, my godmother had died right around that time. And I was like super sad. And I saw that. I was like, what if she's alive? And in the it was too much for me as a kid. It was too much. So that's the moment. Serpent in the Rainbow.
I'm trying.
Right.
Wow.
Right. It's petrified.
Well, don't you think being buried alive is one of those primal fears? Like, when you're a kid and you first think of that, it's almost as though you could make it your life's work from that moment on to make sure that doesn't happen
to me.
Yeah,
right.
Just like, and you used to read about people being buried with like bells tied to them, so that And I was just thinking that sounds perfectly reasonable. Let's start putting bells on people's toes, and let's just feel better about it. Let's keep them on the couch for a month just to make sure,
just to be sure.
Yeah.
To be able to fight it is one thing, but to be completely paralyzed, brain functioning, and just be like, just stuck there. Serpent in the Rainbow. Miscellaneous Wes Craven movie that I thought was really scary. I don't know. So what's yours?
My next one, I'm going to stick with the clown theme, and I'm going to throw out a scene from 1990s Stephen King's It. 2-part miniseries on TV.
You can go TV.
I'm going TV because I own it on DVD, and I've seen it on other stations beyond a miniseries, so I'm going to qualify this. I can remember being in my living room with my brother, as kids, folding the couch over so that we had the little like triangle to crawl under the couch to hide, and watching it with him under the couch. And the scene where young Georgie is in the rain, walking down the street, watching his boat sail down the sidewalk, and the rain takes it into the sewer. And up comes Pennywise the clown, played by Tim Curry. I thought probably was the only positive thing about the whole movie or miniseries, and has the conversation with the little boy. And there's a moment when he's describing what it's like down there and trying to lure this kid closer to the grate so that he can reach him. And there's a line about like the balloons floating, and they all float and you'll float too. And then he kind of reaches in, and then he reaches to grab him. And you see the clown change from this, like, he's kind of creepy to begin with, but he opens his mouth and there's these dagger teeth, and you see that this is a monster. And I mean, there's a mythology built behind, this backstory about Pennywise the clown. You see him pop up in like historical photos. And it's kind of cool to see what they built with it. And I mean, I actually really like the novel that it's based on. It's way different than the miniseries. One of the probably longest books I've ever read in my life, and I don't like reading books at all. I'll admit that right now.
Mark it today, folks. Steve Reader has come out against
not a
reading.
book reader. Last name maybe, but not a book reader. But yeah, I don't know. Pennywise, I think a lot of people. There's moments, honestly, when I still lived in my parents' house. They lived on a corner of an intersection, and there was a stop sign with a light right next to it. There's scenes in the movies when the kids are looking at pictures even, and they see these are still photographs from like back in the past, and there's moments where like it comes to life, and Pennywise runs up and jumps around the light post and is like, "Hey kids," and talking to the kids through the picture. And there's moments I remember at my parents' house, like when I would go into the house at night, not looking at that light post, because I literally in my mind was picturing seeing that clown wrap himself around the post and like try to get me out there. And I don't know, that scene in the sewer is what did it for me. And Tim Curry, a lot of cool, weird characters he's played over the years. But Pennywise the Clown is one that ruined me as a kid.
Yeah, I think you nailed the two movies that might be the best case for fear of clowns.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't remember.
And I'm not even really scared of clowns now.
No, I don't really.
Like, they don't scare me. Like, I don't know, it's weird. Like, I know people that are genuinely scared, like where they'll shake when they'll see a clown or be around a clown. Not the case at all. But as a kid, early teenager, I just,
I mean, I'm annoyed by clowns. I'm embarrassed for them. But
I feel bad for them.
Not afraid of them.
That movie didn't scare me for some reason.
I don't think the movie overall does. I was
going to say. I think you said it even that it was that was one element that sticks with a lot of people about that, which was otherwise kind of not as scary as the book. I thought the book was pretty darn scary.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, I actually didn't read the book till after seeing that because a kid, I didn't even realize this existed. But I mean, having read the book following that, I was like, okay, this is a completely different experience. But just that character, the way he looked, the way he talked, how naive that kid was, and just you could see it working in his favor the entire time, and knowing that kid is, Georgie went missing and never was found again.
It seems like a movie that they'd remake at some point.
Oh, they're definitely going to remake it. I think they actually are remaking it.
Really? It seems like it. It just
or working on a remake.
Feels like something. And I actually wouldn't mind seeing it. I hate, how I feel about remakes.
I do know how you feel about remakes.
Oh, well, but I'll watch it. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, cool. Okay, John.
I want to give a passing reference to just The Exorcist itself, which is it's viewed as one of those great movies that happens to be a horror movie.
Sure.
However, there's a moment in one of the later movies that is actually much scarier to me than a lot of what's in the first movie.
Sure.
So whereas I want to give respect to The Exorcist, it's in Exorcist 3 where there's a scene about midway through, and I started looking it up online, and I found that there's a lot of people putting this scene as the scariest scene they've ever seen. So,
okay.
But it's an odd thing. And the movie's good, not great. I think it's actually a pretty well-made movie, and when you watch it, it kind of reminds you of older films. I mean, it was made in 1990, and it was actually written and directed by William Peter Blatty, who wrote the book that the first movie was based on.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm a fan of the Exorcist films, but I don't think I've ever even seen Exorcist 3.
I've actually never seen 2 or 3.
Well, you wouldn't even have to be a fan. If you just look up Scariest Scene Ever, Exorcist 3, you'll find it on YouTube.
Okay.
I almost recommend watching the movie because one of the reasons this scene works so well is because it is after a period of, the movie's kind of got a thriller sort of atmosphere, and there's kind of intrigue, and it does kind of get into the supernatural horror kind of increasingly as it goes along. But initially there's just a series of murders that seem to have an occult theme, and you're just kind of getting into this eerie atmosphere. And then there's a moment in a hospital hallway.
Oh, I've seen that.
That is just so sudden, and the way that it's shot, so much about it, it's just a shot that uses the way that your eye moves around the frame. All the recent movies we've been seeing, like Paranormal Activity, where you're watching a still image and you're kind of being lulled into a sense of calm, and then when something surprises you, this, if we've seen, the millionth retread of that, this is one of a great example of a scene where it just kind of forces you to sit and watch the shot. It really does seem like nothing much is going on, and then when something happens, it's so sudden and so creepy without really fully explaining what it is. If you're not a fan of Exorcist movies, or if you don't find like possession films to be that scary, still go to YouTube and look up this scene.
I gotta check it out. 3. I know I've heard somebody reference it before, and I think I've seen like it on a list before, and I just need to watch that.
And without giving anything away, I feel like to describe it would be to completely ruin the point of pointing it out.
Okay.
So
yeah, sure.
So what is this? This will be my third.
Your next choice.
My next choice. Okay. My next choice is an early found footage movie. Shook up my world. I was in high school and my friend had this movie. And he said that it was the craziest thing he'd ever seen in his life. And it's Man Bites Dog.
Mm-hmm.
French movie. Came out in 1992. It basically was a movie about two documentarians that follow around a man that they believe is a serial killer, but aren't quite sure until they see him in action. I think what has always scared me is a lack of control.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that directors need to really take note on how psychologically damaging it is to go into a situation where you have control, you think you have control, and it's taken away from you. So it's actually the first time that someone gets murdered. Well, actually, so somebody gets murdered, and then the second time, it becomes very apparent that this guy is not going to stop what he's doing, regardless of the circumstances.
Sure.
So it's jarring. It's in black and white. Mm-hmm. So like blood isn't an issue. Like when you see it, it is what it is. Like so, it's a scary movie.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. It's very dark.
So also another thing is like how we view murder versus more violent crimes. Like, you know, murder is violent, but like sexual related things, it becomes less fun. It's funny at first. He's like, making jokes. And then when he does that, it changes everything. Like he becomes like a real monster. He's a monster, yes, but that changes the whole, he has no limitations as a person. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like he had these rules that it seemed like he had, and then they get kind of destroyed once his desires kind of play out in front of the camera. So that's one of my favorites. One of my scariest moments. So
right on. I'm going to just continue through the years. My next one's a 1992 film called Candyman. You know, as a kid, at that point, I was 11 years old. I remember seeing that movie when it actually came out. And, you know, there's like these things you talk about as kids, like these legends, you like Bloody Mary, or you actually hear about Candyman, or these things where you put the penny in your hand in the bathroom and say, it's all these like random things you hear that you don't ever really want to do, but you do want to do because you want to see if it's real. And Candyman is a movie that kind of put it in context for me that I shouldn't really mess around with that shit.
Yeah.
And that was because of the scene where Virginia Madsen is the lead in the film. Mm-hmm. She's interviewing this college student for some research on this legend of Candyman. And the college student is basically walking her through this legend, you know, the story that all these kids know. And it's basically the story about a babysitter who, you know, is babysitting this child, and the guy that she's having an affair with, or like her side boyfriend, whatever, comes over, actually played by Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother. And it's really cool because the college student is telling the story as Helen, who's, you know, the main character, is interviewing her, but the voiceover intercuts with the actual scene playing out. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the setup's pretty simple. This guy comes over, you know, and they're talking about this. If you say his name 5 times in the bathroom with the light out, you know, or no, with the light on, you say his name 5 times, you turn the light out, and he appears behind you in the mirror. And it's just like such a build. And like she's explaining to the boyfriend, and she's got her top off, and it's kind of sexy, but really scary. And you're like, don't do it because I don't want you to die because you're kind of hot and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then she stops him at 4. He stops at 4, and she's, oh, no one's ever got that far. You know, go out in the living room. I'm going to surprise you. And then being the dumb girl she is, you know, she continues with the 5th one. And the moment she hits the light off, you know, Tony Todd just pops up behind her with his hook as a hand and scared the shit out of me. You know, like, you know, I'd always tested the water with things like that with my friends, and it's like, you don't ever go through with it, or you just talk about it, and then, you know, maybe we did once or twice, but to see it on the screen, and as I really like the way that scene built up. Like I mentioned it's a really little thing, but I really like the voiceover and how it cut in with the scene, because there's a point where she's like, and then he went, and then the guy takes over and says the Candyman 4 times, and and there's another scene in the movie where Virginia Madsen's character actually does it herself to prove that she's not crazy to this doctor, and, you know, when she says it the 5th time, nothing happens, presumably, and then a hook goes through his chest. It's just like actually seeing and watching on screen somebody going through with that 5th repetition of his name. Yeah. Scared the hell out of me. And, you know, not that actually, I like Candyman, the first one. There's a whole bunch of sequels that are just weird, like Farewell to the Flesh and whatever. But I mean, I guess it, you know, kept him in business. Tony Todd played the character, but, yeah, dude, the Candyman in the mirror got me for sure.
That's a great moment.
Nothing else.
Nah, seriously, that movie was like, so I guess with the exception of like Freddy and Jason, there was Candyman.
Yeah, it was like kind of like the B movie.
Yeah,
like when we were kids or teenagers. Like it didn't really do anything in theaters, or it was more like that movie you got on VHS from Errol's or Blockbuster and rented it.
Yes,
you know, and like you watch it in the dark, and then you kind of wanted to go to the bathroom and try it, but you knew better. And that was totally me, you know, when I saw that movie, and I didn't mess with that shit.
That was around that time.
Well, you don't believe it,
yes,
but you also don't fucking do it. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Yeah. You don't believe it.
This is a movie, like it's stupid legend, like. But then there's that little seed in my brain that was telling me, you know what? Just watch the next movie. Don't mess with that shit.
Right.
So I did.
I was introduced,
and I'm here
to
today.
That movie and Ouija boards.
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much
Ouija.
around the same time.
Yeah.
I was scared of both. I never said Candyman 5 times.
I think I may have said it 5 times during this podcast. Maybe I'm on 4. Let me just stop right now.
Right.
All right.
What if you just list all 5 Candyman films in the mirror?
Nope, not happening.
Does that do it?
Like the From Dusk Till Dawn, there's like 80 of those, just like Candymans.
I'm going to throw a movie out there that's a little bit, maybe of a cult movie. I feel like in recent years I've heard more people talking.
Or a cult film?
A cult film.
Okay.
A movie that kind of, I think it was around probably video stores all throughout my life. I just never got around to seeing it until recently, but it's from 1974. It's the original Black Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And funnily enough, this movie was actually directed by Bob Clark, who also directed A Christmas Story and Porky's.
Yep.
And has also... And when you look at those 3 movies, you might want to say, what an interesting career. Well, the last movie he directed was like Super Babies 2 or something like that.
Goodness.
Or Genius. What, Baby
Just
Genius?
capping it off.
Baby Geniuses 2.
Nice
So
on
you
the
want to
cake.
say maybe more just a guy who you could hire to be on a
Yeah.
film. Early in his career, though, he did do a few horror films, and he seemed to be really involved with the production and the kind of shaping of the content. And Black Christmas was a Canadian movie and made in 1974, released there in 74. It came out in 75 in the States. The reason I mentioned the year as an important factor is because it's kind of a series of firsts. A lot of things about it might play as familiar now that we've seen 1,000 slasher films, but this movie was the first time I've seen where the killer's point of view is the camera, where you can kind of hear the breathing and you can see the camera moving around.
Wow.
It also, I think, is the first use of the phone calls coming from inside the house. And it also is one of the first uses I can say of the kind of prank call. There's a voice on the other end of the phone that's kind of tormenting the person and kind of teasing them along. There's a few really scary scenes in this movie. There's most of them are just little quick flashes. Like there's a scene in this movie where a girl goes into a room and sees her dead friend, and behind the door, which is open, in the crack of the door where there's just a little bit of light coming in, you can see the killer's eye. I mean, just little simple things like that that just make your skin crawl. It also has a great sense of just, since the killer is kind of in the house the whole time, there's just this constant threat of, it's a big house, so you could be downstairs and someone else could be up in their room and you could be worlds apart because there's this other force in the house that's prowling around. When trying to choose the best moment to pick of this movie, it was a little tough because, like I said, there's so many little moments that you could almost say, well, that was a moment that I jumped, or that was a moment that really stuck with me. And it's easy online to find the prank call. If you just put on Black Christmas 1974 prank call, you'll see the scene. It's pretty scary. I mean, it's a good example of what makes the movie good. There's something kind of gritty and creepy about it, even though it is very dated. But since I didn't see it until recently, I can't say that it's not just that I saw it when I was a kid. It's just that there's something about it being kind of having that 70s feel that lends itself to this sort of griminess of the movie somewhat. Even though it actually is a pretty well-made movie. I checked, it's like shot on 35 millimeter. It cost $600,000. It wasn't low budget, but it was before slasher films became something you just kind of churn out. I think this was intended to be a little bit more of a unique experience. So you can find the prank call online, but there's a scene in the movie, if you watch it later on, where the killer, who, when he calls the girls, he uses different voices. It sounds like there's 3 or 4 people, but it's just one person. They actually got like 3 actors to do the voice of the killer.
Oh, okay.
So we've heard him talk to the girls on the phone and threaten to kill him and call him all these awful things. But there's a scene later that's just kind of randomly intercut where he's up in the attic and he's kind of by himself and he's just freaking out. And it's a point of view shot. And it's basically someone running around a dark attic point of view, just like screaming and making all these weird noises and stuff. But you never see them. You just kind of see what they're doing and what they're kind of pushing.
Yeah.
It's a brief scene, but it just points to the utter depravity of this character who's never really fleshed out. And I will say that's one thing, the horrible remake from 2006, one of the things that really it got wrong was it really over-explained kind of the background of this killer. But in this original movie, it was sort of there's almost like a mystery around who this killer is. It doesn't feel like it's part of a formula.
Right.
And like I said, there's certain things about it that definitely feel of its time, but I thought it was remarkably fresh when I saw it. So I would recommend not just that you see it, but yeah, watch out for the attic freakout scene.
Mine is a movie from 2007. It is Record.
I knew you were going to eventually throw this one. I was like, where is it at, Ronald?
You knew I was going to, because this is one of my favorite horror movies ever. Period.
Put some punctuation at the end of that.
Period. So basically, a reporter goes to follow some firemen. Story's boring, and then a emergency gets reported. They come to the apartment, and basically they realize that something crazy is going on. Due to that fact, they're locked into the apartment and building, and then chaos ensues. Now, the newer version that came out a year later was absolutely fucking garbage in the trash can.
The remake?
However, the remake.
It's Quarantine, right?
Quarantine,
Yeah.
yes. But the original captured fear in that situation in a way that I had never seen. Would seem like a natural disaster or something going on in that situation. And there's a scene where, I mean, it doesn't give away the entire movie because you see it in the trailer. But basically, all of them are kind of crowded around one man that's hurt. And they're hearing these weird noises upstairs. It's a very narrow area. And as they're talking to each other, they're like, whoa, what are you going to do? I want to go upstairs. I'm going to go upstairs. They're just speaking to each other kind of frantically. A body falls down from the top floor. It kind of lands in the background. No.
Enough said.
You can't do that to me.
Yeah.
Not when I'm in the dark. You know what I mean? And
I got to see that.
it's a very, very...
Have you seen that, John?
No, I have not, but it came up.
Damn,
I didn't, you know, I made my list before I really did any online research.
Right.
I did a little after the fact just to see and record.
Yeah, I saw that
came
a
up
lot
on quite
too.
a few lists.
Yeah,
And I've heard nothing but positive. Beyond just you, Ronald. I mean, a lot of people that I've seen it.
And I think the reason why it was so important for me to see this movie is because I think that so many of those movies had been coming out, like Blair Witch and stuff like that. And I had this friend, and he was like, I know a movie that's going to scare the shit out of you, and I'm telling you it's going to scare the shit out of you, and you're still going to be scared. When people tell me that, I never believe them. They're like, it's going to make you jump a little bit. I was like, no. But this movie actually did. I think it's minimalist, and I think that's what makes it so cool. The fact that it really was done on a shoestring budget, rather than it looking like it was done on a shoestring budget. It, you know, not having a lot of resources can make you do some really creative things to
Absolutely
create scares, and that was such a good thing to do. I mean, I don't know. There's more. There's way more than that. But that particular one kind of ups the ante and kind of transitions from the first act to the second act. It's like, oh, shit got real, and everybody has to be on their toes at this point. So, Record.
Right on. This is actually going to be one of my last ones because I jumped on your Shining board. I may throw a couple more, but I saved this one only because as a graduating senior from the class of 99 at Owings Mills High School, couldn't have been more excited to see this film that everyone in my friend circle, family circle, believed to be true. And that was what you just said, 1999's Blair Witch Project. One of the prizes...
Steve, I'll go ahead and tell you, you'll be happy to know you just jumped on my Blair Witch board as well. So,
all right, so let's tag team this one again. So I just want to say that beyond the scene that I'm going to mention is... we talk about these spoilers. I don't want to feel horrible saying this, but I've got to give some of this scene away.
Okay. At this point, everyone's seen Blair Witch Project, right?
I hope so. I mean, if you're listening, well, thank you for listening to our podcast. Yeah. But if you're listening to our favorite scary movies, horror scenes, I'm hoping you anticipate that it may be on here. Because when 2/3 of us actually has it, you should probably see it by now.
Right.
But before I get to the scene, real quick, marketing for this movie was the most effective use of marketing, even working in the industry myself, probably that I've ever seen.
Ever.
I'm so glad you're getting
picture.
into this because
Ever.
I think that a lot of the sort of backlash to this movie was based around people who honestly thought that it was trying to sell itself as real. I never saw it try to sell itself as real. It did a damn good job of impersonating something real.
Right.
It put out all these little specials, all these ancillary materials. But the first thing I remember
internet
reading
stuff?
about it, I remember when it first, like, I think it was Rolling Stone had like a festival report, and they were talking about Sundance, and they made, and this was, I guess, 99 or the year it must have hit the festivals.
Sure.
And, from that moment, it was talking about it as fiction. I don't think you had to think it was real in order to be scared by it.
I would agree with that, but I'll say that for the most part, beyond myself, because I researched it a little bit before seeing the movie, and I kind of was already aware of that, like you were saying, but I would agree with you. Most people that I knew genuinely thought it was real.
Yeah, or it was supposed to be real.
Supposed to be real, right. And, I don't think, there were some people that didn't like the film. That's fine. Like, they're either not a fan of the found footage thing or like maybe they felt tricked, like you just said. But I think that at least from my experience, even having having the inside that, it is not supposed to be real. It's mocking it almost, like this mock doc thing that's now so popular. It was just how much thought went into building up to it. You know what I mean? Like you talk about all this ancillary material, literally TV specials on public broadcast stations were airing these specials that they shot.
That were made to look like they were shot in the 80s and stuff like
yes.
that.
And being in Maryland too, I remember being at one of the theaters here and seeing the first poster and being like, oh, Burkittsville. Oh, cool. It's movie Maryland. This is kind of cool. It's like my home state. Cool. Feeling very proud of this in a way, And I remember seeing the film at the Charles Theater, and the entire film, I think what builds so well is that everything's built around this, this dark figure, this witch, and not too much is actually shown. You don't really see anything. It's a lot of sounds and noises and, elemental, environmental things that you fill in yourself almost with what you think is there. Like we talk about a lot of these movies do. But the scene that I'm going to put out there is the very last shot of the film. A lot of this is built up in the film. It's referenced. We're told about what we see at the end of this film multiple times through these students' research. We never see it. We don't really see any true victims. I mean, you see people go missing, but this entire time they're looking for the people that are missing. And you think, maybe that, they're just messing with them. Maybe they are just lost in the woods, whatever it might be. But the moment the noises lead them to the house, and then the noises lead them into the house. And Mike, at that point, is giving up on this whole thing, wants to find Josh and get the hell out of hell out of the woods. And I can just remember, sitting in the theater and the last scene of that footage, everything that I've been told this whole movie, seeing it on the screen, seeing that camera drop, and the movie end. Yeah. Like, it knocked me out. It started, you talk about Record, that whole, this was 8 years before Record came out. Yeah. And it's been imitated and impersonated so many times since, sometimes well, like in the, in the case of Record, sometimes not so well, and like in the sequels that came from it. But I mean, I think that the filmmakers who, Maryland guys, shot it in parts of Maryland. It was an awesome experience for me. Something that, a little movie that costs like $500,000 to make almost $300 million. It's one of the most successful independent films ever. Yeah. And to have experienced that as a teenager, where that was my bread and butter as a 16, 17-year-old, teenage boy just graduating high school who loves horror movies, it was the ultimate experience for me. And especially seeing it at the Charles Theater, which is an independent theater in Baltimore City, that doesn't have the best presentation, where you're watching it in a theater that's kind of flat, doesn't have stadium seating, and this is the movie that it looks like it's footage that was found years before. Everything added up amazingly. One of the best experiences I've ever had in a movie theater. Scared the hell out of me for weeks to come. I
had just moved to Maryland when it came out. That was the year I moved here, and I saw it at the Charles too. And I think it was there before it was playing wide or anywhere else.
Yeah, it came out there before, and that's when I saw it.
And it was a huge crowd line around the block.
We may have been there together.
I don't know how long it was there. It's like
it was like opening weekend. I went, and the line was completely around the whole block of the arts district right there.
But yeah, I just kind of want to. I guess I'll add a little bit on to what you were saying, because I think the scares in that movie are so simple and so relatable, because you can totally imagine being out in the woods and just how vulnerable you are when you're kind of outside of your territory. Sure. And, and you're in your tent and you're out there in the middle of the night. Yeah. There's nothing more vulnerable than a person sleeping in a tent in the middle of nowhere, because if someone comes upon you, it's clear that you are in your little tent bag. You're zipped up in your little bag, and you're probably asleep. So that notion of someone kind of messing with you in the night, and then you add that to that the layer that of how they made it was that the directors and the producers were like they were kind of messing with the actors. Like the actors really were reacting in an improvisational way to this content. Like they kind of knew certain things they were supposed to do, but they were getting vague instructions and kind of improvising their dialogue. So it was a really immersive experience for the actors, and I think that really comes across.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of people think the characters are annoying. I think they're just kind of more believable. Like, I think a lot of real people would be annoying under those
Everybody that
circumstances.
I would call probably my closest friends, if we were in that situation, they'd probably become my greatest enemy because of how annoying they probably would be. So that's real. I agree.
So the shot at the end, I don't think you can pass a dark room in a house you're not familiar with and not momentarily think you see someone standing in the corner of that room. Okay, everyone agrees on that, but I want to give special props to another moment earlier in the movie where they're awakened by noises outside their tent, and it sounds like people are moving around outside. Sure, And there, I want to say it was one of the actual. We've been talking recently about the use of kids in horror movies and how unscary they can be. I do think you hear what sound like young voices, kids' voices, but it's creepier in that situation. And then as they're kind of going about getting out of the tent, you see something pushing on the side of the tent from outside. It's one of the few instances in the movie where there's an acknowledgement of like a physical presence outside, and just that little hand, and maybe even a series of hands, kind of pushing in on the side while they're freaking out. At that moment, I mean, I love to go camping. At that moment when I was watching that movie, I thought, I don't know if I'm ever going to go camping again because that's all it would take, you know.
And I never have.
You never have?
I never have, and probably won't because of that kind of stuff. I would say the scene also before they go into the house, like that earlier in that day where it's kind of been parodied now, but when Heather's like apologizing to the camera. Yeah. I think that scene really set me up, and I think if you react to the end of the movie the way I did for that last shot, you know, I think it's the realization by her that they probably aren't going to get out of this, and if they did, like it's the farthest thought from her mind right now. Yeah,
it's easy to make fun of that, but it is it's such a like an emotionally bare moment where you again desperate, and you feel. I mean, if we're going to look at horror movies and why we like them, and it's all about maybe finding that moment where you kind of relate to the characters, I think in that moment, you really don't know what you would do in that situation.
It's probably one of the best horror films ever made, if you consider it
I think it's got to be in the conversation, absolutely.
Yeah, it has to be, you know, one of the top ones.
Yeah, you can't blame it for every shitty found footage movie that came out.
Right.
The only thing you can really blame it for is Book of Shadows, but we're never going to speak of that again now that I've said it. Let's just...
I saw that one in the Charles... Shh.
You obviously don't listen to John.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Okay, so this is my last.
How many? You have one left. How many do you have left, John?
I have one left.
Okay, cool.
I have one left.
And you're
I have a couple that I'll just throw a couple quick ones when.
So if we're talking about solely off of scares in the movie theater, I'm gonna piss my pants. The Ring.
Oh, good call.
The closet scene, right? When they're walking around, they're gonna see where this girl is. They open up the closet. You see her face. You don't quite know what's going on with it. It's done in a way that's so effective.
It's so quick.
Everybody in the theater screamed, and I screamed.
I was gonna put that on my list. The only reason I didn't, because I feel like talked about that so much last year.
In theater jump, like I'm talking about in theater. I was like, yeah. You know what? Another weird scene is. This isn't a horror film either. Kill Bill, when she gets shot in the head, that scared the fuck out of me. I'm talking about just scares.
We actually talked about that there are a lot of movies that aren't horror movies that have scary moments. And some of the scariest moments I could think of were from movies that otherwise weren't scary. So, you know, maybe there's another list one day.
Kill Bill. That first...
But that's not the one you were talking about.
You were talking about
The Ring.
No,
we were actually talking about that last week. That image.
It's so quick, too.
Trumps,
you know what I mean?
And it lays down the concept of what will happen to you if you watch this tape in the most gruesome way possible. And it happens to a sort of likable, kind of innocent, kind of normal seeming teenage girl. She really didn't deserve
it.
Yeah.
And she got it.
Yep.
Anybody can get it. That's a number one rule in a good horror film. Anybody can get killed.
Yep.
Little kids can get it. Old grannies can get it. The old wise man, he can get it too. The one that knows about the town. The librarian.
Yeah.
I can't stand a librarian. Oh, let's do some research. Let's go to the library. She can
Library or library?
Library.
Okay.
Did I say library?
I think so.
That was a Baltimore youth.
No, I mean the ring. I mean that scene. Absolutely. I think as an adult, that was one of the few times I can genuinely say I jumped out of my seat. Because it happens very early on in the film, very quick. I mean, like, they're looking, they're going to find a body, or they're not going to find anything at all.
Right.
And then they not only do they find it pretty quickly, and it's so fast. And the look on her face, that frozen, like crippled, like stroke-like look on her face.
We apologize to anyone who has had a stroke.
Yeah, apologize.
Or who is crippled. I'm not sure if that was a word you wanted to use.
I'm sorry.
Let's just maybe contorted.
Contorted?
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
I like that.
That's why we have John on the show now, so they can correct our wrongs.
We apologize to everybody.
What do you got next, John?
This gets into that area where there's some movies that are not perfect films, but they have moments that will always stick with you. Yeah. The Strangers.
Yes.
Okay. Oh boy!
We talked about it last week. That's why I didn't put it on my list so that you could talk about it.
Okay. But I left it towards the end because I was thinking, well, maybe Steve will mention it. But The Strangers actually, to me, is a movie that is almost a classic horror film.
Agreed.
I think that so I have a problem with horror movies getting to a middle third where, in retrospect, all the killer's doing is toying with the victims. It's to me, then I realize I'm just watching a drawn out scenario where someone's going to get killed horribly at the end, and it makes me feel bad. Like, why am I enjoying that? Like, why is this good? Why am I, when there's no chance for escape and you realize, oh, there never was any chance for escape, and I've just been watching that play out. I think sometimes I like to see the characters kind of beat the odds, or at least see some chance of them beating the odds. So I don't think it's a great film, but I think the first 45, maybe the first half of the movie is near perfect for ratcheting up the suspense.
Oh man,
it's
absolutely.
The whole idea, the simple, pure idea of the home invasion is so creepy.
And just because you were home.
And also, I actually liked the way the movie gave you this kind of simple conflict between the two characters that again was very relatable. You can totally imagine an occasion that was supposed to be a nice getaway with your significant other, and you guys are fighting about something, and you get the sense that they've both, or at least the girlfriend, sort of feels like she didn't really appreciate her boyfriend that much when they weren't getting killed. But there's two moments, and I think in short, the moment that almost was the one I chose was the moment where she's in the foreground, and I think she's just fixed herself like a glass of water or something.
Yep, that's it.
And in the background, the killer who there's two or three killers that are masked, but there's a killer with like kind of a sack on his head.
Yeah.
And he just steps into the shot in the background and kind of watches her from the background, and then looks like he might step forward a few times and kind of lurches forward on his feet, and then just kind of backs back up, which just lets you know they're in the house. They could do anything at any time. And it's still a little while before she finds out that someone's been in the house. So that moment's
that's mine,
burned into your brain,
Yeah.
But if there's a moment that I always think about as just watching it play out was just so excruciating. There's a scene later where his friend has come to try to help him out, and they make this friend. He's actually played by Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Dennis, who I love on that show.
Strangers.
Yeah, he's a good friend. He's coming to help. It's every now and then in a horror movie, a character is fucked. And you can see how, well, if this doesn't happen, then this will happen.
Yeah.
This guy is doomed from the moment he starts to go down a particular hallway.
He's getting it from both ends.
And it is almost a comical moment.
That movie, it snuck up on me. I think I wasn't expecting it. I'd seen the commercials, and I was like, oh, I'm going to give it a chance. I saw it in the theater. I enjoyed it so much. I think the reason why I didn't put it on was that, man, that's beyond the scariest moment. That is my ultimate fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I didn't, because it's a real life fear.
The home invasion scenario.
Home invasion scenario. And,
like, is there anything scarier than thinking of, you're in your bedroom, you're in your house, you just come around the corner and there's just somebody there.
Yeah, that you've never seen before. And that's another cool thing they did. Like, some of the scenes with them in it were really washed out looking and kind of bland and a lot of white in it. Like, you would think that brighter colors like that wouldn't be scary, but something about them.
Well, it's
in
a
those-
house. I mean, it looks like. I mean, I'm sure everybody's parents or aunt or grandparents live in. Everybody's got someone in their family who's got a little house out in the country with the wood paneling, and looks like it hasn't been updated since like the 70s, but it's still in basically good shape. It's a little old ranch style house, and there's just so many. The way this space in the house is used too. I mean, you become really conscious of kind of the layout of the. And
it's a great movie.
I love that movie.
I saw it in the theater too, Ronald, and it was one of the few times I've been that scared in a theater.
Yeah.
And I began to wonder, why did I do this? Why did I come to see this movie?
That's why I didn't put it on my list.
It was a nearly empty theater, and I was in the middle of the room, and I think maybe there were a couple of people that kind of filed in after I did. But I became really conscious of the fact that I was in the middle of a dark room, and that I was kind of, that to anyone that came up behind me, I was completely vulnerable. So I remember hunkering down in my seat and gradually getting to the point where I was kind of like hiding.
The horror just gets me.
Horror doesn't get enough respect, like directors that reel you into the experience. They don't get the respect that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie.
There's supposed to be a sequel maybe coming out to that. It's been development hell for years, but
I'd watch it.
I'd check it out.
I like the first.
I would say in the past 5, 6, or whatever. When did that come out? 6 years ago? 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Whatever. In that time frame, it's probably one of my favorite horror movies. In top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super effective. I've watched it at least 4 or 5 times, and the idea, like we said right when you mentioned it, John, was just because you were home, that scares the hell out of me.
Yep.
Anytime, like when I walked in here tonight, you said, when I rang your doorbell and you were just catching up on all these movies, you're like, if I can just get to the door to put my hand on it, I could stop it if it was to move.
Yeah, I had left the door unlocked, but kind of halfway closed, and I went out to it was closed but not pushed to.
Yeah.
And he rang the doorbell, and I went to go get the door, and as I was going towards it, I realized that if someone was outside, they could just push the door in, and I just was walking forward, and it's like the second I got my hand on the door, I felt more secure. I've been watching too many horror movies.
Yeah.
and that's actually a problem
movie like
I
this
have.
that does that shit.
I see myself in horror movie vision all the time anyway, and especially if I'm alone in the house, and it's just like you come back from vacation and you're checking the house out. Do you ever have that brief moment of wondering what would you do if you threw back the shower curtain and there was some guy like masturbating with an axe or something?
I love that that's the priority, that he's masturbating first, but then also has an axe.
Yeah.
He's got to get the one thing done, then he'll take care of the other.
It's a strange thing. When I was younger, my house got broken into. My mom's.
Me too.
So, and it happened in the city. It was weird because nobody was around. Like people lived on that block, didn't say anything. But that feeling when you come into a place and look, and something that you've had in a position forever, for years, maybe 10 years, is moved and things are messed up. It ruins you as a person.
They actually hit that note in The Strangers as well when she knocks her phone on the floor and she turns back around and the phone is actually on the chair.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
That's why you get a big old shotgun to blow your enemies away with a pistol. Right?
A pistol? A shotgun, I
A
thought.
shotgun or a pistol.
And a pistol.
Oh,
Yeah,
that pistol's on your waist, and then you have a big old shotgun just in case you fall back. You can do that fade away, like
slow
the movies.
motion, yeah.
I watched entirely too many action movies.
Does anybody have any quick honorable mentions they want to?
Honestly, that was The Ring was going to be one of mine. Actually, I will mention the original Invasion of the Body, or the 1978 with Donald Sutherland, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I remember watching that when I was in high school, and the last scene where the main girl sees his character walking down the street and thinks that they've both survived this invasion, and he just looks at her and just points and makes that siren scream that all the bodies that had been. I remember that scared the hell out of me as a kid. I don't think everything else you guys kind of
I think everything else has been covered.
Yeah, I would like to give a quick shout out to Alien.
Okay.
And to House of the Devil. And also to John Carpenter's The Thing and American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
Those are all.
I would second the last two. Cool. Well, I mean, you guys can feel free. I mean, this episode's up a couple days before Halloween. You can, hit us up if you have any other suggestions at themovieschmovie@gmail.com. We're going to post on the site, comment on the thread to let us know if you think we missed any movies or have any suggestions that we should go see that we obviously didn't, or else we would have probably had them on our list.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen any of the movies that we talked about and we spoiled it all for you, I'm sorry. Genuinely sorry. But still go see the movie. I mean, you'll still have the experience. If it made this list, I promise you that you can still watch the movie and probably be scared by the scenes that we talked about.
Right.
I don't think anything we said would ruin any of the movies that we talked about.
Okay, good. Because I always worry about the spoiler police that Ronald and John patrol our podcast now.
Yeah.
And they're so concerned, and I understand.
No,
We
I
actually
agree
didn't
with you
spoil
that it's hard to talk about particular moments without spoiling a little bit about them. But I think
Okay.
we stayed on the respectful side of
I
that.
think so,
you know?
too.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So successful all around, John.
Yeah.
For everyone.
I don't mean to make you so nervous about
No,
it.
that's cool, man. No, like literally when we guys talking about this, I'm like, man, Ronald literally says, so are we talking about these scenes or are we
Right,
going to
right.
just like
I
think
was-
about
I
them
was
by making
afraid.
eye contact with one another?
Yeah.
Because like, how am I going to talk about my favorite scenes without talking about my favorite
Well,
scene?
here's what I think. I think we should take it even further. I think we should be purists. We shouldn't even spoil what movie we're talking about.
Oh, there's a thought.
We should just say there's this one,
There's
and then
one.
there's this part.
What's the thing?
And you know what happens.
I'm not going to
There's
say
a blood
anything else.
splatter.
You will know the part when you get to that part of that thing.
of that movie.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you the movie. It exists,
me.
though. It's out there.
Yeah.
No, but this has been a lot of fun. I mean, I think it's kind of cool how we did it this year.
Yeah, I
and
think
we'll have
so,
to think
too.
of something different for next year.
Innovative.
Yeah.
That's what we are.
Anything else to throw in there, guys?
No, go to the website. Don't be a bitch. Subscribe to it on iTunes. That's all. You know, movie schmovie.
Way to cap it, Ronald.
Yeah,
Way to cap
you
it.
know what I mean. Somebody's like, what gets the fence about this? Don't be a bitch. Just press that subscribe button and subscribe, please. Okay.
You got so nice at the end. Please just do it.
Please.
If only the button said "Don't be a bitch." Maybe we can get that arrangement with iTunes.
We know some people that can make that happen.
Right.
But thanks so much for listening, guys. Happy Halloween. And hopefully you find something that frightens you this time of year. Thank you for listening as always. You've made our day.
Bye-bye.
It's good, man.
I literally have to go downtown like right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need to hurry the hell up.
It's
Goodbye, Ronald.
That's the wrong door.
I gotta pee real quick.